Alright, so I did the Cosmic Top 10 Attackers list, and I'm like, okay, so next up is Tech, right? Well then, I tried the Tech one, I lost 10 years off my life from the stress of it, and here we are with the top 10 mutant list. So, yeah, the Tech list, that's gonna be put on hold for a little bit while I reconsider my life choices, but this list is attacker only as per usual, just 0 defensive value is factored here, it's just attacker value, and all gameplay in this video is from the content creator beta. But now we have first up the honorable mentions, and for the honorable mentions here I'm going to put Domino and Colossus. Now Domino, why isn't she top 10? You know, she's a very beloved character. While I don't love her, I actually cannot stand her on attack, but she gets a mention because she has a ton of fans. And look, Domino is a 50-50 champion. On one side, she can be insanely fast and just so good damage-wise. On the other side, she is just miserable, right? No bleeds, no crits ever. It's just such an unfun time. So that's why Domino is not in the top 10, because she's very reliant on that RNG. And while there's another mutant that is RNG reliant that is pretty high up in this list, Domino doesn't do anything outside of just have damage output, right? That is her whole thing, just damage. Her utility is kind of lacking for sure, so that's why she is not a top 10 mutant for me, right? But she still has great damage output sometimes. The Flaming Trinity is great for questing as well, so there is that. She does have some use for sure, but it's mainly on defense, and this isn't a dual threat list. But there will be one eventually, so she'll get her flowers there. But Colossus is a champion that can be very powerful with his full synergy team. His full team makes him like an arguable top 5 mutant or even top 3 mutant, but without it, he does feel very dry, and I feel like his lack of broad utility makes him just a mention today. I think he's great. I think he has a ton of use with the full team, and even by himself is still pretty decent, but yeah, just not top 10 caliber right now at least. But now we have the next tier, which is the Namor tier, and what do you know, this belongs to Namor. Yeah, Namor is such a confusing champion still. My second favorite character in the game, but I think he deserves at least a mention in this video because Namor is a timeless champion. He will always have his very strong damage output, but of course he's all about the signature ability, which is the damage reflection. This is, like I said, very timeless, and it makes him still so valuable to this day even. And that's why he deserves just like a mention, right? He's not in the top 10 for sure, but he gets his own tier because he's so confusing, right? Sometimes he is just one of the best options for a fight. Other times he is just there being a good damage dealer. And yeah, for the most part, he will always have a use, so that's why he's going to be in this video, because he deserves a bit of a shout out for being such a timeless character. But yeah, Namor gets his own Namor tier, just had to put that there. But now it's time for the top 10, and number 10 is 2 characters actually, because I could not decide between Prof X and Strife. Now these champions have pretty much the exact same use. They're both for long form content and /or Alliance War. Now, both of these characters have ramp up, right? Professor X in the fight, Strife over the course of a quest, and Professor X, once he gets going, that damage output is just absurd, right? It's one of the best in the game, and that's why he is so strong for Everest content. However, he is not just a long-form content character. You put on a power back boost and he just destroys Alliance War, man. He is so powerful in that game mode, and he has some battlegrounds and questing use as well, but in Alliance War, he is such a powerhouse and he's so good, even in like the higher tiers. So yeah, Professor X, great champion, great for long form content, great for Alliance War, has some use in questing despite being kind of slow for those medium-sized health pools. And Strife is kind of the same thing, to be honest. Ramp up champion, but has a different form of ramping up. However, for long form content, he is one of the best, if not just the best for long form, right? He is so good utility wise for that mode, and he's also great damage wise for that mode. And in Alliance War, when you ramp him up, he becomes a powerhouse, man. He can just destroy mini-boss fights, path fights with ease. He is a great Alliance War attacker, and he's good for questing as well for sure. But yeah, both of these champions kind of do the same thing, and I don't think one does it better, so they just get the same placement. So yeah, number 10, Professor X and Strife. Now number 9 is Havoc. Now Havoc had a bit of a resurgence, to be honest, because he did fall out of place for a bit, but with Battlegrounds and Alliance War still being the most relevant pieces of content, this dude has definitely gained some value because those health pools are his perfect health pools. He can just drop them with 1 SP2 or 1 SP3, whichever one you want, he will just be so good for it. And his utility is the selling point, right? He has access to non-contact hits, which is always a good thing for like Korg and Atuma. He also has access to one of the craziest cheeses in the game with any energy damage DOT debuff. For example, in Battlegrounds right now, there is Hazard Shift, Shock, and Bleed, and he is just perfect for it pretty much. So yeah, that's why Havoc is just so good sometimes, or honestly for the most part, he is just a very good champion because the energy cheese is great, but even in general, he still has some pretty good damage output, and he has some great utility as well with like the Incinerate immunity and that massive energy res, and also that very cool feedback debuff, which is a very rare debuff to counter. So he does have a lot of forms of damage output, which is always a good thing, and that's why he is number 9. Just a great all-around character. And number 8 is someone that needs so much more credit than she is given, and it is Storm Original. This champion is so crazy sometimes. It is just absurd. Her damage, which is her biggest selling point obviously, is just absolutely unreal. It is so powerful because it's good at base, right? But give her a shock debuff to take advantage of and she goes haywire, man. Right now in Battlegrounds, Hazard Shift, Shock, and Bleed. Who is the best option for it? Storm is one of them, that's for sure. She is so crazy whenever there are debuffs that she is immune to because she gets prowess off of them. And so Shock, she loves it, man. And additionally, if she isn't like eating up shocks, she is inflicting them with Horseman. Horseman Storm is the best, or one of the best, long form DPSs in the game. It is so absurd how good she is as a Horseman. And of course, Horseman, it's very common to be good with a Horseman, right? But she is, in my opinion, the second best Horseman in the game, only losing to Archangel because Archangel is just unfair, right? But yeah, she has access to prowess, to shock immunity, to shock damage as a Horseman. She also has access to this pretty cool like stun mechanic where if her stun is purified by a skill character, it replaces itself with a passive stun, so that's pretty nice. And of course, she does lack overall utility, right? She only has like 2 utility pieces, but it's made up for with that insane damage output, both as a Horseman or not as a Horseman. So yeah, Storm, number 8. And if this was Battlegrounds only, Sunspot would be number 2, right? But this isn't, so he's number 7. But he's still a very good character. This man in Battlegrounds is so unfair, especially at 7-star rank 2. At a rank 2 level, this champion is simply unreal. One of the best burst damages in the game by far, but not only that, the perfect block is so powerful. It honestly feels too good at times, right? But guess what? He can't get nerfed anymore, so we're chilling in that regard. He is just so strong with the perfect block, and also having access to a lot of incinerates, always a good thing. Incinerate immunity, pretty fine as well. But that perfect block and also that damage output, man, that burst damage is just so good. And it makes him so versatile for Battlegrounds. He is so good at just getting fights done in like 1 SP2, and he is the king of just having a very strong fight time. Now, of course, he is lacking general utility, but it's made up for by him being one of the best Battlegrounds attackers in the game. So yeah, Sunspot, easy number 7. Not too much to say about him because his kit is very small, right? But his versatility is what gives him that number 7 spot. Small kit, big versatility, and just an overall great champion. Now, number 6 is Bishop, and Bishop is just such a powerhouse, especially versus those Purify characters. He has a pretty good utility kit, he has a ton of energy res, and energy damage is his fuel, right? You put energy damage on him and the result is kind of hilarious. He is such a cheese master, similar to Havoc, right? But what sells him more than Havoc is the fact that he has one of the best purified punishments in the game. Whenever he is purified, the opponent takes damage, and like versus Kingpin, this is such a massive cheese fest. And also, if a skill champion purifies a stun, it gets replaced with a passive stun. So similar to Storms, right? And those two things are just really great, but additionally, his damage output is pretty dang good. He has a very strong SB2, and as a 7-star, which I feel like did save Bishop overall, the increased crit rate is just so powerful for him. So yeah, Bishop, very strong champion. If this was a defender list, he would be at the top for sure, because this man is a powerhouse dual threat, but even on attack only, still has a ton of use, especially versus like Korg or Kingpin or even any other hard skill character he can take very well. So yeah, Bishop, number 6, just great for energy damage fights, great for battlegrounds, great for questing. What else is he good for? Even Alliance War sometimes, but mainly just good for the battlegrounds and questing part. But now it's time for the top 5, and number 5 is a champion that just refuses to be irrelevant, because Omega Red is so powerful to this day even. And here's the thing with Omega Red. With Omega Red, there were times where I was like, okay, this champion is definitely falling off right now. It's happening. Oh my gosh. But then, you know what? Ascension happens. Oh my gosh, an extra rank on Omega Red, this man is not going anywhere. It's like a cycle where you think, okay, Omega Red is falling off. Nope, he gets an extra rank, he gets some extra help somehow, and this man just refuses to be bad ever. So that's Omega Red for you, man. Started off as an absolute beast and is still to this day one of the best champions in the game with recoil masteries. Recoil Masteries plus Omega Red is the craziest combo you'll ever see in the game, and in Alliance War, he is just unreal, right? Just so strong, can take pretty much anything in Alliance War, and in Battlegrounds, without Recoil Masteries, he is fine, he is serviceable for sure, but if there is a recoil meta going on, he is a top 3 attacker pretty much all the time. Like, no doubt about it. He is so powerful in Battlegrounds whenever it is a recoil meta. So, for competitive game modes, he is by far one of the best mutants, but in, like, questing, he really just isn't all that. In, like, smaller questing, like, you know, I guess event quest or side quest, he is such a fast clearer for it. It's just, like, a joke with him, right? But in like the higher health pools, he does struggle a bit to catch up with the other DPSs, so he does fall off a tiny bit, but he still has so much use in the most important game modes to where he is still a top 5 mutant for sure. So yeah, number 5, Omega Red. Now number 4 is Magneto Red. This champion, when he first came out, oh my gosh, it was like the craziest thing ever. He just countered every single metal champion in the game. It was so goofy how powerful he was, because whenever the opponent is metal, he just shuts them off completely. Their healing, their ability accuracy, both gone. Auto block and miss, gone. What else? He just does so much. It's so wild, man. He is bleed and shock immune pretty much. He has access to armor break. He just does everything, I feel like. But against the robots, he is so good for them. Well, he was, right? But then Kabam was like, okay, this man, way too strong. Let's just make every other tech character counter this guy because, yeah, we need to stop this man immediately, which it did work, but for the previous robots and the previous metal champions, he still destroys them. And even the current metal champions are pretty much Magneto fodder. Like Baron Zemo, future Ant-Man, both just get destroyed by Magneto. So he'll always have a use in this game. And like for story questing, if it's metal, he is the best option. That's just how it is, right? He is a bit slow for like battlegrounds, but he can still work there for sure. But in Alliance War, if there's a hard metal fight, you just send Magneto and he gets it done very, very fast and with pretty much no stress at all. So yeah, Magneto number 4. The only reason he's not higher is because against non-metals, he does struggle a bit for sure, but he still can be a pretty good damage dealer, and he still does have some uses, like with the armor break and the bleeds and the bleed and shock pretty much immunity. So yeah, not too bad versus non-metals, but that like drop in use really does put him at number 4 for me. So yeah, still a great placement, still a great champion of course, but that is number 4. And now it's time for the top 3. Now, despite Apocalypse not being the best in Battlegrounds for sure, he does pretty much everything else, and he does it so well. Alliance War, one of the best for it. Questing, probably the best mutant for it. Anything else, he is just so crazy for. And not only that, his value as the giver of horsemen is just so insane, dude. He makes champions 2 times better, even 10 times better sometimes because of that horseman ability. But Apocalypse as a champion is still unreal, right? He has access to Disorient immunity, which is insane because only he has it to this day. So that one ability is still unique to just him. Crazy stuff, man. He's also Bleed and Incinerate immune, which is good. He has access to Evade counter, Concussion, Weakness, Poison, Degen, Bleed. You name it, he probably has it because he is just that good utility-wise. He has stun immunity, he has stun through block, he just has so much going on for him, and with a full team, his damage output is insane. With Strife, he is just absurd and one of the best long-form content damage dealers in the game. So this man is just good everywhere besides Battlegrounds, right? But I feel like with what he does outside of that, it definitely makes up for it. So yeah, Apocalypse number 3, just a staple to the mutant class. And now it's time for the top 2 champions. Now, number 2 is going to be Archangel, and I used to hate this champion a lot, but after my alt account, Arya, was made, and he carried me to Paragon, my views have changed a lot because, yeah, this man is very overpowered, and his utility, when you, like, put it in a text form, it doesn't seem that much, right? He has Bleed, Poison, Purify, ability accuracy reduction, and just overall ability accuracy reduction. But it's that final piece of utility that makes him so strong because he just shuts down everything. Any ability, any node, he just doesn't care. He just shuts it down because why not? If the opponent can be bled and poisoned, he is the best option for it, usually. So that's why Archangel is number 2, because he is simply just that good. He shuts down and invalidates so many champion abilities and so many nodes, and the damage output is also really crazy. So yeah, he's good for Alliance War, he's good for Battlegrounds. I think he is the best mutant Battlegrounds attacker in the game because he is simply just that fast and that powerful, and he is one of the best questers. I know from experience because he got me Paragon on my alt account. So yeah, this man deserves all the credit. He is easily number 2, man. Of course, against immune champions, he just isn't good at all, but his power against champions that aren't immune is what makes him number 2, for sure, because that power is just unmatched. Even Magneto cannot match that power. He is just that good overall. So yeah, Archangel I think has to be number 2, but now it's time for number 1. And number 1 is Kitty Pryde because of course it is. Her kit at base doesn't seem like all too good, right? She has Incinerate immunity, she has phasing, and then that 0 damage while phasing. It's not a lot of stuff, right? But when you think about it and when you put it into play, it is just that good. It is so insane how she can just invalidate damage. She just invalidates damage output. Like, that is so unreal. It's almost as good as Hercules Immortality, but of course nothing is that good. Hercules is simply the best. And this is a mutant list, but he still gets brought up because of how broken that champion is. Anyway, but yeah, Kitty Pryde, the phasing, so strong. The damage output, of course, it's not all there, I feel like, but it doesn't matter when you are Kitty Pryde and you just have that crazy broken ability to just bypass anything with that phase. And if the opponent counters miss, then it is just an absolute cheese fest if she is awakened. So yeah, Kitty Pryde, I mean, what can be said, man? She just cheeses everything with her really, really broken phase. She's good for Battleground. She's good for Alliance War, like very good for Alliance War. She's good for questing for Alliance War. She's just good everywhere, man. So yeah, Kitty Pryde, number 1. Fantastic character. Pretty cool character as well. But yeah, number 1 in the mutant class. And yeah, that is it for the mutant list. Who do you think deserves top 10? Who do you think should be at a top 10? Let me know below. And yeah, let's just have a fun discussion about the top 10 champions in the mutant class in 2023. And yeah, that's about it for me.